Hi, Deacon Ed McCormick here in another installment in my series on finding God in a secular age. I've spent the last couple of videos talking about the secular age, this kind of fog that has come over Western society and that seems to blind us to the constant presence and activity of the holy mystery we call God. And in this video, I want to now turn to the whole question of how do we find God in all things? How can we discover the mystery of God breaking through the fog of our secular age? And I want to begin by talking about what God is not. Because we have all kinds of assumptions and ideas about God that has nothing to do with what the great religious traditions mean by God. So let's start with what God is not. God is not an idea. God is not a feeling. God is not up or down. God is not in or out. These are all ways in which we speak about creatures. In all of our language, all the language we use, whether it's mother or father or holy or good, all of those terms are terms we use for people and creatures. And God is none of those things because God is not a creature. Nor is God available for observation like a planet is or a person is or this field is where I'm standing or an animal is. Because God is not another object, another creature found in our existence. God doesn't operate on the same plane as we do. And therefore God is not in competition with us because God isn't another creature. God is the source of all things, causing all things to exist. And you find this idea in the book of Genesis, chapter 1, in that first chapter, which is a beautiful poem, and it begins this way. In the beginning, when God created the heavens and the earth. And it starts to have this poetic description of God creating light and the stars and the oceans and plants and eventually people. And there's a revolution in thought and consciousness in this poem. Because it is claiming that whatever we mean by God, God is not another creature. And so all our language, all our ideas are completely inadequate for grasping what we mean by God. You see, God is not to be located and found like we can find a person or a planet or any creature, because God doesn't operate on the same plane. God is the source of all things that exist. This is what we mean by God creating. And when God creates, God doesn't make. God creates, meaning God brings into existence all things. And so this dynamic activity of bringing things into existence has to happen constantly because I can't cause my own existence. This lawn, the ocean, these homes, this sky, the sun, none of it can cause its own existence. And so God has to be intimately present to everything, always causing it to be in existence, always giving it existence, breathing it into existence. And so I want to share with you a practice that can help you begin to expand your consciousness of how God is ever present and active. And it's the practice of wonder. Just practice wonder. The wonder that you are alive today, that you've been given another day, that this sun is here, that this breeze, that this field, all of these buildings and homes, that my wife and kids exist. And as you start to practice this sense of wonder, that this little dog that I'm walking exists, you begin to awaken to a sense of gratitude. Because none of this has to exist, and yet it does. Simply because the Holy One is desiring that you exist, desiring that all this exists, and is constantly, generously giving it to us, whether we acknowledge it or not. And so as you begin to practice wonder and gratitude, you get in touch with the boundless generosity of God the Creator and the wonder and mystery that you exist, that anything exists. And as you practice this gratitude, you will discover how much you are actually constantly being loved by God, who is present to you at every single moment. I'll see you in the next video.